Hi, everybody. What is going on? Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Shoot. I'm sitting here with a symbol. We're going to get into some WWE 2K24 talk. Let's get it. Pro Wrestling Shoot! What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the audio, whatever you're listening to this on. I am Jesse Carter. I run this channel called the Pro Wrestling Shoot, and I'm here with Matt, a.k.a. Symbol. What's going on, bud?
Hi, Jesse. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You are a busy man. There's a lot of content that you release on a daily for this WWE stuff, man. How do you keep up?
I have a notepad on my phone, and I excessively write. I scour the internet for mindless trash and ideas that I could pump out into 8-minute videos. No, I don't know. It's just like you. It's just constant grind. And what are we going to talk about today? Sometimes the news is nice and there's a lot to discuss, and sometimes we rack our brains for days on it. So trying our best. Yeah.
Right, man. That Jade Cargill 2K downloadable content that you released today, that was a great video.
Oh, thanks.
And it came out at the perfect timing too, because of all this news that's going around. Jade Cargill might be going to WWE. So
yeah, I think it's in the grand scheme of things, like we were just saying before we came on, I think it's interesting to see where she will end up, assuming she goes to WWE. Is it going to be a complete fresh start, NXT, treating her like she's brand new? Are they going to put her on main roster and treat her like a big deal? And then that's what got me thinking, just like, well, for 2K24, there is a possibility that, assuming she signs with WWE in the next 2 months, she could, and gets on TV, she could get scanned. She could be a late DLC edition. I think that would blow fans away. Yeah. And I think it just would be awesome to see her. And just in general, it'd be great to see Jade Cargill in WWE.
100%, man. So I'm a huge Jade Cargill fan. She was one of the many that I was criticizing there for a little while in AEW. I was like, oh man, she's just got a lot of work to do. We should have maybe kept her on Dark for a little bit. But man, she got so good so fast that she became one of the main stars on that promotion, and just phenomenal, man. It was so weird to hear the news of her going out after she just dropped the title to Statlander not too long ago, and then
out of nowhere,
yeah.
And then exactly. We get the rematch. I'm like, why did you build this? I don't get that. There must have been something weird going on, because how do you do the drop the title like completely in a squash after all of that, after her whole run is undefeated, and then to just kind of go out like that and then come back for the one match on Rampage that's pre-filmed, and she showed up on Collision, so to set up, I guess, the Rampage match, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now she's done. It's like, okay, that's how she's going out. It's like, fine, but also, if you're Tony Khan in AEW, maybe it's just contracts and she has no interest in sticking around. Maybe she feels she's done everything, and Tony has no interest in pushing her or the women's division to another level. But I think it's a missed opportunity on their end, because I think WWE, if she goes, they'll take her and just blow her up.
Yeah. Well, she had that opportunity before too, and she turned it down because of her kids and just the freedom is, it's a heavy schedule over there in WWE as compared to AEW. But she's always said that she never really needed the money. She didn't need to be there wrestling. So to see her go to WWE would be shocking to me. I don't know if the news reports are completely accurate. They could be, but I wouldn't be surprised if she just was done with wrestling in general.
Yeah, that wouldn't put it past me either. I thought that when she left or took time off, I thought that was just signaling that she's done. She's just going to go explore Hollywood movies or nothing, or just do something completely different. So it's we'll wait and see, right? If the reports are leaning towards her going to NXT, it could also be kind of a testing ground, right? Like, they don't have to pay her a obscene amount of money for NXT. She could do that for a year, see what she thinks, and see what WWE thinks of her and her work. It's a different beast too. Like, even what I was saying on today's video, someone like that, you're an AEW homegrown talent, wrestling AEW style matches, or the way they are booking you, to come over to the WWE system, which, we're lifelong wrestling fans, we know that it's a different beast, and they're going to want somebody like that to come in and you've got to do promos their way, wrestle the way they want you to wrestle, perform, etc. NXT is a great spot for that. So I don't know if she does end up there in NXT. I could see it being more like, well, we're all feeling it out, and we're gonna see how this goes.
NXT just dropped 1 million in ratings. That's
right.
Wild, man. 2023 is getting more interesting by the day when it comes to professional wrestling. No more CM Punk. He could possibly be going to WWE. Who knows what that guy's going to be doing? But just wild, man. I guess I will give all these new guys that are in the chat, new guys and gals. I'm not sure who's all in here, but a little background on myself. I started making a lot of videos about WWE 2K24 because I am pretty good friends with Brian Williams. I've known him since 2008. I won a THQ Superstar Challenge for Smackdown versus Raw 2008. Won like a world tournament sort of thing, and flew me out to Florida. Got to hang out with him. We really connected out there. Lost track of him for about 6-7 years. Met up with him again at Survivor Series just randomly. Wow. We've stayed connected ever since, man. So I've been bugging Brian about 2K24. Like, dude, this is what's got to happen. This is what the community wants. That my faction has been a problem. Stop blocking these people. They want to see the alternate attires and all these things that you're giving in my faction, but you're locking the mode up. So they know he's very much aware of what's going on. And the point of the 2K24 videos that I was making on our channel and sort of turned us in, to not only a podcast where we talk about wrestling and we post some wrestling news or whatever, but we are huge fans of video games as well. So normally I run the podcast with my co-host, James Pinard Jr. I make the videos by myself. He's just kind of on the podcast into things. But the whole point of the videos was basically just to get the community's voice heard, because I know that Brian will see my videos. I know for a fact that he'll see my videos because I spam him my videos.
Like it or not, you're going to watch this.
Hey, check this one out, man. Hey, check these comments out. Like he's really cool about it, dude. Brian is an awesome guy. I know a lot of the team at 2K. And I know they're working hard, and I know that they just got a hold of a lot of these modes that they've finally broken away from the Ukes engine. So new engines are coming, and just keep your fingers crossed for 2K24. I know there's a lot of good things in the works, but my faction, man, what would you like to see changed in my faction when it comes to 2K24?
All right, Jesse, here we go.
I had to start it out with a bang, dude.
Well, it's funny because we did talk about, so today on my channel, it was the patch update, which was just simply the My Faction drops, stuff that we got from the community and what is basically blocked. So having said that, and even reading my comments on today's video and hearing the frustration echoed, and it's an echo chamber, it's still a small subset market of the larger people that play the game casually or still like play it every day, but the sentiment is it's not good. So here's the thing is, like, with my faction, if it was like, okay, you got the pencil, what would you do? How would you change it? I think that there's a lot of options, and I don't think that getting rid of my faction is necessary. We could have my faction, we could tweak it if we want a digital card game mode in the game. If that's something that like 2K is like, this is what we want this to be a big part of the experience because we can see it with the other games and our competitors, it's a money maker, totally makes sense. I think it's the way it is presented and built out, it doesn't click with the wrestling audience. And what I mean is doing faction wars, forget about the lock DLC for a second or the lock content for a second. Doing faction wars is not what I think wrestling fans want to do. I think they actually shot themselves in the foot, to be honest, because doing the live events and the single matches that way of progressing through the towers, that's cool. That's fine if you're working towards good stuff, right? But once you get into the faction stuff, you're like, 4-on-4 matches are a slog. Here's 500 of them. You're like, no, I don't want to. I do not want to participate. So it's not in their favor. If it were me, I would honestly be turning it around and saying, we're not going to do so much like collecting cards to build out your faction. Let's collect the cards to build out your roster, like an MLB, NFL, the NHL. I think of MLB The Show by building out my dynasty, and I'm going to build out my entire roster of who's pitching, catching, in all my positions, and I can rotate legends in there, and I build up my stats for my roster. So that way I will be branded as Smackdown, and I am constantly filling spots, and my entire roster slots of like my mid card, my intercontinental, my heavyweight division, however, my women's division, and you're collecting cards that way. To me, that would be better because then I'm like, okay, so I'm going to use Becky Lynch today to go in this match. I'm pulling her from my roster and I'm challenging Zelina Vega on Raw for an online match or something like that. So it's more brand warfare versus doing it in terms of factions, because I think that in itself gets tiring. And then it just gets into what's the incentive. I think one of the biggest problems for me with my faction is I don't really care to have an incentive to play the mode. The incentive is supposed to be collect the card. All right, the cards don't feel different. They're
what do you do with them after that?
Yeah, and I'm not somebody who lives in a digital world of collecting, like doing it in Madden or anything else. It just doesn't jive with me. It might with somebody else, but for me,
I've never liked that feature when it came to Madden. I do believe the 2K basketball games had it at one point as well, something similar to it. But that's just not. I've had many conversations with Brian about this mode, and he's tried to be like the voice of reason with me. Like, listen, man, there is an audience for this that really enjoy this, and I'm like, well, where are they at, man? Because they're not on YouTube, they're not on Twitter.
They're not playing the mode. They're not championing your mode. I don't know where they are, but that's what I've always said too, is there has to be a player base for this that is out there that are just silent about it, that just go out and they just go into my faction and they get the free update card packs and then they play a couple of rounds and they look at those statistics. It must be worth their while. Otherwise, this thing would be dead last year. So they're doing something right with this. But the biggest element, the biggest caveat that we know of, and that we have said profusely, you've said it in your videos, and it's my faction locking character models behind the mode. And then sticking it to us when they post it on Twitter saying, here's Triple H, and you can't have Triple H. You can't. But even if it's like, here's Triple H in the mode, you're like, cool. But I got to get the card. So I either have to grind excessively, which I get it. That's part of the thing. Or I could buy virtual currency, spend $20 like actual cash to get the card, to get the Triple H that I want, or Asuka, or whoever, or Booker T. Why then? And then it's locked in the mode. So why then not, if I'm going to put the money, the actual dollars into buying the virtual currency to then unlock this in the mode, why not just then give it to me in everything else? And I've heard it was your show and it was your interview with Brian where his feedback was, I'm paraphrasing, it's a different team that is working on my faction.
Correct.
And again, I'm paraphrasing this down, but he said something to the effect of, it's a different team working on my faction. And because of that, they have different resources and it's not as cut and dry and as simple to move to like export this character from my faction and bring it over.
Right.
I respectfully disagree, knowing absolutely jack all of the system and the architecture and everything and being a giant dummy. I respectfully disagree because the modding community is able to do it.
Right.
So that's my only pushback is it seems possible.
So there's something with the mod community too that I'd like to bring up. I have said to Brian several times, like, look, I know that 2K has this phenomenal scanning process to where we can scan all these wrestlers in and get these awesome models, but some are not scanned very well. And I understand you got cameras, here, there, you got them up their butt, whatever the case is, to where you can scan every inch of their body.
Every inch of them,
but the modding community for the PC in particular, get these textures. I actually just had a comment on one of my videos today, and I'm trying to remember who it was that had said the comment. But my guess would be that their technology is not as up to date as some of these textures that these modders are able to make. For some reason, I don't understand why the technology wouldn't be up to date, but it's the textures are not there. You can download some stuff off of community creations that looks 10 times better than the in-game models.
Yep.
and it's quite impressive, to be honest. But I've shouted at the rooftops to Brian, like, dude, get some of these guys, Joe matchups, even status, get these guys involved in 2K. Maybe get some pointers from them or some advice or whatever the case may be. As far as the My Faction, it is split up into multiple different teams, which I like and I don't like. I like it because you can brainstorm more. I work with a lot of teams. What I do, professionally for a living. So I love that you can get together with a team and brainstorm different ideas. What I don't love is that it could create problems in other aspects of the game. My faction locking their wrestlers behind my faction. Hulk Hogan losing his mustache. We don't know where this comes from, but it just happens. There's something in the game that because we have multiple different teams working on things, something is not clicking with this engine. And I'm hoping that this gets fixed in 2K24, by the way.
And sometimes in those circumstances, those instances, you can have situations where you've siloed teams, right? Where one team is simply just not it's a big organization and you're not able to communicate one hand to the other. You have a universe mode team, you have another team that's working on sound design and working on the creation side or the online structure. So yeah, Hulk Hogan doesn't deserve a mustache.
I just got to shout out some of these comments, man. We see Mike. What's going on, Mike? He says 40 years of WrestleMania / Road to WrestleMania. This is a huge request by the community. That is, how do you feel about My Rise, Matt? Are you a My Rise fan, or are you a Road to WrestleMania guy?
Road to WrestleMania. I play through the majority of the My Rise stories. I am much more of, I'll do like in previous years, whether it was Showcase or it was a Road to WrestleMania. I'm much more into that because I'm playing as the wrestlers for that story, for the history of it. An Attitude Era, like I want that. My Rise, it's got the silliness, it's goofy, you can branch stories off, it's got some cool stuff in there, but I am quite honestly, I would much rather sit there and go, give me 40 years of WrestleMania, 3 to 5 matches per era, and have a great day. And some bonus matches, all the unlockables in there for the eras. Not that I need a WrestleMania match, 1 through 40. Because actually some you cannot do. There's some WrestleMania 2000. I looked at the card. Not one of those people would be like a legend or even associated with WWE anymore. So there's some matches like you just could not do per WrestleMania. However, you could go back in the history and just find me 15 matches across the board that they probably have already mined before in previous years. So yeah, I'm totally on the fence of give me a Road to WrestleMania over a Showcase and combine it with My Rise, something like that. What about you?
Yeah. I love the Road to WrestleMania with Justin Leeper. I do believe is the one that created those modes. Phenomenal. I loved them. I actually like the My Rise. There's a lot of things about the My Rise that I don't like. Inside joke right here. Shout out to Everything Pro Wrestling. I'm actually going to play an ad for them here in a little bit, so you guys can kind of see another great wrestling podcast. These guys are phenomenal. They go live after Dynamite every Wednesday. He says, Assemble, did you unlock Mighty Molly yet? This guy is still playing My Rise to this day. Couldn't get Mighty Molly.
Wait, Mighty Molly? No, I got regular Molly Holly. Yeah, I didn't get Mighty Molly. Nope. Didn't happen.
Well, you're not alone there, Conrad. So you got this on lock. My Rise is great, man. I think that I'm a little sick of the story of let's start from the beginning, start at NXT, work our way up. Like, I kind of like the idea of maybe starting as a veteran and kind of going back and maybe taking somebody under your wing or something different. You know what I mean? Cool. That we haven't done yet. I feel like these My Rises are kind of played out, but definitely a Road to WrestleMania guy. I would like to see the Showcase mode get removed in general. Like well, if they don't have to remove it, but at least don't make me play it to unlock anything because I don't want to have to. That John Cena one this year was brutal. I did not have fun.
I was pretty bored. I think I don't even know between the two, the Ray and the John Cena one, which one I enjoyed more. They were both pretty lackluster. Yeah. I'd probably give the edge to Cena in that I enjoyed it more only because I played as everyone else.
Right.
But that's a very narrow margin because I'm like you. I went back and I replayed 2K16 with Austin on the
Okay.
cover,
Yeah. Yep.
if I'm right. I went
I think
back
it was 16. I think you're right.
and I did that showcase, that Attitude Era mode.
That one was great.
You had the commentary voiceover of the matches. Even the broken 2K20 had it. I even went back and I was looking up footage for 2K20's showcase mode and their career mode, and I looked at that with the 4 horsewomen, and as broken and eyeball gouging as that thing was, and the hair was glitching from left to right.
Yeah.
You were still getting, I think the commentary tracks, adding that in makes a huge difference to break it up, because not having that with generic music in the background, doing John Cena matches, pressing pause every minute for me to go, what's the combo move I got to do now? What is it? Okay, now I got to do this. Okay, unpause, whip him in the corner. Okay, pause. What was it now? What's the next thing? Just give me some sequences or big moments to do, add in the commentary. And yeah, if I'm like you, I would scrap it or not make it a focus. I would do like a Road to WrestleMania and put in like the creation. Like I've said on my show before, if you gave me a Road to Mania, give me 4 legend stories, and 1 is the creation, My Rise story arc, where it's pick your male or female character, and here's your 2-hour, 3-hour story piece to go through. So you have the My Rise component. The rest are just legends.
Yeah, I love that. I actually love that idea. And also, when you're thinking of these games too, I feel like because 2K is so synonymous with having so much in the game, right? We got AEW Fight Forever this year, and didn't quite turn out to be the game that everybody had hoped. The gameplay's fine. Gameplay's fun. I feel like there's just not enough match types. There's not enough this. This is because we play games like 2K, where they give us too much. But I feel like too much is could cause some of the issues as well. This is a simulation-based game. They got away from the arcade style. You know, everybody's been requesting Here Comes the Pain style gameplay for many, many years now. They got away from that and kind of went towards that simulation feel. But because we're adding so many modes in, and not match types, because I feel like match types, the sky should be the limit. We shouldn't be limited on what kind of match types we create. Double title matches should definitely be in. That is one of the most requested things that was yelled at to Brian Williams a lot. He lets me know in the text all the time. He knows. I'm almost positive that now this isn't like he didn't tell me this is coming back or anything, but
sure,
because he's heard these complaints, I'm almost positive we'll see this happen in 2K24. But I feel like when you're adding My Faction on top of Showcase, on top of My Rise, now we have My GM, you got My Universe mode. I feel like if we were to get rid of some of those modes that just aren't as popular, like My Faction, because there's no way that My Faction is as popular as a Universe mode or is as popular as a My GM mode. Now they have control of the Universe mode engine, so that's great. Yeah. So now we need to get promos back in this thing ASAP, because this universe needs some love, man. We don't even have show intros, nothing like we used to have. I feel like we took a giant step back with the universe mode. My GM's great. They upgraded it a little bit from 2K22, but still not
limited.
Still not the GM mode that I think everybody remembers and everybody wanted. I do believe that is getting a major overhaul as well this year. So
I wonder if it will come to a point. I doubt they would do this, but you almost blend them together where it is just a overall Ultimate Universe mode, because there's so much. This year I've enjoyed My GM mode a little bit more than Universe. Universe is still the ultimate sandbox, like for good, better or worse. You have all the freedom. GM mode has that potential in the direction that they seem to be heading.
Yes.
It looks to me like, well, I can control the camera angles and spectate the matches. I can have the title matches. I can have my I can do contracts. I can do so much of what I wish Universe mode would do. And then vice versa. If I go into Universe and I'm like, if they could just incorporate these 2 things or 3 things from GM mode, boom, I'd be all set. I wonder if one day, way down the road, if 2K is still doing this stuff with WWE, that there is this like, well, these modes are getting bigger and bigger, and they're kind of almost tripping on each other. Hey, we should just melt them together. But
Put them together.
if they still are like, no, we want the ultimate sandbox here, and we want your structured, simulated, more stripped down experience here, hey, I'm good with it. But I do want my GM mode to get the love. Hopefully it does next year, because it was more of a standout to me. It's just like, obviously the match types, I need a full calendar. I need trades. I need to be able to manage it more, getting down to the nitty gritty to really make it that experience. But some people, you probably get the comments too. Some people are like, I don't like my GM. I don't want to sit there and manage contracts. Or for me, I find the system for doing the class system, I don't like that at all. Why do I always have to have a giant versus a cruiserweight to make the match successful?
I can't stand that. Yeah.
Versus just a star rating or a ranking system or something that makes the match.
You know what's funny about my GM is they have really structured you to do the WWE formula while making your my GM, which to me kind of takes the point away. I want to have full control. If I'm going to make my own brand, which I think you can do this year. I haven't tried it. Can you make your own brand? Can you do a custom brand yet? Like you could
you can do a custom. You can be a custom GM, but you
custom
can't.
GM. Okay,
but I can't. I can be Bischoff or one of the other main.
So
GMs.
Custom brand, I think, is something that they need to focus on as well, because that you have all the creation there. I don't know why you wouldn't do, but either way, I don't want them to force me to do the WWE formula while I'm creating my my GM experience. Also, this thing needs to be online. There's no, I'm 37 years old. I'm not going to have somebody come and sit on my couch and play my GM with me. And I'm not going to play the computer all day. So once again, there is an audience for my GM. There's an audience for my universe, which brings me to think that there possibly is an audience for my faction, I guess. Isaiah Hill's in the chat, one of our regulars. He's a big fan of the My Rise. So it's, double-edged sword. We were talking about this before we went on the air. Double-edged sword.
It is. And I would love to see a million things out of all of them. But I do go to think to your earlier point. I think the approach of 2K with the WWE series, the WWE franchise, is a lot of look at everything we can chuck at you to go look at the depth, or just look at everything we are offering. Yeah. And I think there is a good and a bad to that, because and I'm sure the devs think about this all the time. It's like, well, how do we balance this? We got to try to make sure we're improving, that we're moving things forward, we're adding more, we're giving more value, but at the same time, we don't want to stretch ourselves. Like, if we're going to add this thing, how much time, effort, resources, yada, yada, is this going to take away from doing something else? Or, so I'm sure they run these conversations constantly, and then also thinking about where do we want it to be in 2 years or 3 years. I think that there is always the risk of what we see, which is there's a lot of modes in here with the addition of my faction, and you're kind of, and it is we're offering something for everyone. Do you like digital card collecting? You can do that. Most people go, I do not like that. They go, great. You don't want to do that? You don't have to. But we have your career mode, classic career mode. People love My Rise, which they do. Some of the biggest YouTubers on there, just that's all they do is My Rise, and it's amazing. Most channels are like universe mode channels. They love that, to be able to create their shows, to create AEW.
Universe has to stay for sure. I'm a huge universe guy personally.
So, and then there's Showcase, which I'm like, oh, you do it once, you're kind of done. You put it on easy, you grind through it, you get the unlocks. And when you said earlier that, don't put the unlocks like behind Showcase mode, I agree. What's the point of me buying the Mega Boost pack in my version of the game and I don't unlock everything?
This was the first year I think they did that, because 2K22
22 might have done it.
Did they do that too?
I think they did.
Okay,
maybe
that
they
was the
did
year
it.
That I was pissed off then when they did that.
Yeah,
I was hitting Brian up like, dude, what is this? I buy the collector's edition because I get to unlock everything. I don't want to play all your modes, bro. I want to
just go.
I'm so brutally honest with Brian, and he knows it. Like, I don't want to play all your modes. I just want to jump into universe mode and have everything. If I buy it, which I will get to the modes regardless. Like, I'll play them, but I don't, want to unlock everything before I enjoy the game.
Chat saying that too, that it was 22. They did that with
22.
Ray.
Okay.
Yeah,
Shout
and
out
I
to
agreed. I
the
was
Black
like, why
Rock.
would you do that? Literally
Okay.
the consumer buys the ultimate icon, whatever, and they're like, I pay 160, 180 bucks for this whole thing. Yeah, you still got to play this mode. You're like, dude, at least toggle the option to be like, hey, you're about to enter showcase mode. Do you want to unlock it or keep everything locked while you play through? Then I could choose, man. But like, yeah, there's some stuff that they gotta iron out. I feel like they are on a great path as the shill I am for 2K, obviously, but I think that they are on a great path where they're going, you know what, this is the third year of this version of the franchise, right? Where like Brian stepped in, like you would know, Brian stepped in towards the tail end of 22. Was that right? Or like
Towards
halfway
the
through
end of 22, like right as they were releasing a couple
Yeah.
of their final patches, I want to believe.
And then obviously he was fully involved with 23.
23, yep.
And so I'm kind of looking at it like, look, we skipped 21. We hit the reset on 22, which thank goodness it wasn't stripped down like all the way back in like 2K15 or whatever, where it was like, here's nothing. And then they started adding more again. So they gave us quite a bit. They brought in GM mode and stuff. We're like, okay, I get what you're doing here. The controls, I actually like the controls now. Versus I don't like the red screen stamina stuff, and the momentums and the blue stamina wheel is like got to be fixed. There's certain things obviously in there, but I think now we're getting to the third year of this, and folks like Brian and other people are at the helm. They got their hands on it completely. They probably know exactly or have a good idea of where they want to go with the franchise. I feel really confident about the next year, about 24. WWE themselves have not done huge roster cuts. That was a huge problem with 22, is we were coming out of that where they supposedly scrapped entire DLC packs and had to redo them because WWE's turning around every month and Vince is like, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. And so the roster was it was all over the place. Remember, like we didn't even get Bray Wyatt. He was yanked out of it. Fiend was ripped out of it. It was all because of that. So I'm like, this is great. WWE is extremely healthy. The roster is healthy. So it gives me hope that like, you're going to get way more NXT stars.
Go through that Endeavor buy. So,
yeah, there is that though. There is that, my friend. You could be seeing, well, with that, like on that note, I don't know about you, but like, I think WWE is more, they'll probably do like corporate cuts because it's a big merger.
I hope so. Well, I just said that wrong. That sounded terrible. I hope nobody loses their job, but hopefully it's none of the talent that is affected.
On the talent side, I see just armchair quarterback. I see them doing what has been happening so far, where they're just allowing contracts to expire and they're not renewing deals versus we have to fire you, pay you out remainder of your term, just bench people. Lacey Evans used a little bit. Her contract expired. They didn't renew. They didn't re-up. Elias that we just heard about today, same deal. They've got more and more that are probably going to come up in the next 12 months that are going to be like that, I would guess. And WWE is going to be like, nah, we got to save a few bucks. We don't need you. Could be.
Let's take some chat comments real quick. DapDH Harris, WWE 2K23 would benefit from looking back at SmackDown Here Comes the Pain and SmackDown versus Raw series. I agree with that, man. I'm huge SmackDown versus Raw guy. So SmackDown Here Comes the Pain obviously is the GOAT, but love the SmackDown versus Raw games. Everything Pro Wrestling says, let's talk video game crossover with Endeavor. I could see Tyson in UFC and WWE. Interesting.
Yeah.
And same with the likes of Conor McGregor, maybe. John Jones?
Yeah. Do deals, do pre-order bonuses. If they show up in WWE one time, you get Conor McGregor who just shows up at a WWE event and does a promo and a confrontation with Roman. Get him in there as a pre-order bonus or something. I don't know. I could see that. It's the video game world versus it just depends what they do with the licenses. Also, I wonder if it depends what the deals are for the fighters / wrestlers, what their contracts are, right? Because they're not gonna, unless they sign up new deals. I bet they're licensing out to EA or they're to 2K. So my guess.
I hope to never see EA make a WWE game.
I don't see it. No, I'm scared.
Yeah. King DC says new commentators for 2K24.
Yes,
I don't
please.
think that's going to happen.
No.
I would love for it to, because I'm so burnt out on Corey Graves and Michael Cole. I would love to hear like a Wade Barrett or Just something different. Even I'll take Booker T at this point with the
Chucky Ducky.
Yeah,
I think it's probably going to be the 3-man booth again. I hope it's not. I would love it if they just cut Byron out, because Cole and at least Cole and Graves are the 2-man team for premium live events, the big 4 pay-per-views. So at least that would be authentic to TV programming. Just stop with Byron, and also clean up the audio. Like, you want to give some feedback to Mr. Brian Williams, my friend? Give me better crowd reactions and stop with the go get 'em, woohoo, yeah. Give us new background audio tracks.
AEW Fight Forever did so good with that crowd sound. Yep. I don't know why that would be so hard to do. These arenas are full for WWE. Right now, the business is booming. I'm actually going to WWE this Saturday. So,
nice.
Yeah, it's like a...
Is it like a live event?
Yeah, it's like a non-televised, taking all the kids.
Nice.
So they're pretty stoked. Going to go see Cody Rhodes. But yeah, I mean, damn, just mic up the crowd. It can't be too hard to do that, but
just new lines, just new crowd sounds and coughs and all that stuff, just so it sounds a little bit more up to date. It's getting a little old. I want to hear more crowd reaction to the moves and the timing of the match. If we were like late deep into a match, or my guy's health is really red, somehow the AI can trigger that with the audio, so the crowd knows like we are getting to the end of a match. Something where it builds up more, so the crowd is more lively than just sitting on their hands.
So you actually brought up a good point, and it kind of goes with this comment. He says, JCSJ says, I just want more pro wrestling elements in the game, realistic rope breaks, crawling, strike, battles, limb damage selling, weapon grapples, and interactions, etc.
Yeah.
Great points, because once again, takes me back to, this is a simulation game. I want to see some more realism. For one, I shouldn't have to hit somebody with a finisher 9 times to beat them in this game. Like, this is it's getting out of hand. It's
PWG, buddy.
Another thing that I text Brian all the time. All right, this is getting out of hand, dude. I just want to go to work, but I cannot leave because I have to beat this fool. I'm about 20 minutes into this match. This is ridiculous.
Yep.
But when it comes down to the selling, I love that they put the tired finishers back in. We need to have tired just moves in general. It shouldn't have to just be a tired finisher. But once you get damaged, you need to see that play out in the match. I feel like this would add just that awesome realism into the game.
Yeah,
I
agree.
Crawling around, like he said, selling limb damage, kind of making it back where we had the body damage in the SmackDown versus Raw series.
And they're just holding my ribs. You've been doing limb damage targeting.
Yes.
My knee, I'm going to limp a little bit more. And then if I try to hit off, if my limb, like if I'm red in my knees and it's getting into deep purple and it just looks like I'm broken, and I try to do a drop kick or something with those leg mechanics, it should take me longer to get up, or it should just maybe trigger that you are very damaged. So whatever you do, it's going to hurt, whether it's my back and I can't lift the guy, but something to show that like your stamina is getting really low and you're getting tired. And like you said, not just tired finisher animations, but deep in the match, your character's in red and you're trying to do a superplex. It should hurt after and not just pop up.
Yes,
doing a power bomb and you're just like, I'm good. Like it should be harder than that. Also, like they were saying in the chat, the interactions, steel steps, table spots, not having to do the barricades. I like. What about you? But I liked OMG moments. Now that I don't have them, I miss them.
Yes. So I didn't even realize I didn't have them until I tried to go do them. I was like, wait, where the hell are these things? Like, what's going on?
Because you can't do anything now. Like, it feels like you can't do anything.
I just feel like the limitations need to be taken away. Like certain things, like setting up a ladder and jumping onto a table or suplexing them through the announce table instead of just having to wear a finisher out on them or whatever the case is. Go ahead. Sorry. Oh no. I was just gonna say that I do like that you don't have to use a finisher to break the barricade. But it's only the corner barricade. Yeah. I just feel like we should do... I love what AEW Fight Forever did, where you could just kind of create chaos throughout the match. But, Yeah, that's not going to happen. I don't think
Even
that they're
like
going to
top
do that with
rope,
that.
like I want to be able to throw them onto the announce table, not
Yes.
just have it a finisher sequence, but like you said, go bust out a ladder, jump up real quick and do it off the ladder, or go to the top rope and do an elbow drop or
Yes.
splash, which you should be able to do this year because like we've seen so many more where like Logan Paul has done his moves where he's doing elbows at WrestleMania and he's dropping them off Seth. Like there've been WWE does a lot of table spots from the top rope, but we don't have that unless it's a finisher sequence
Yeah.
that they've set, you know what I mean? So yeah, it shouldn't just be that. I would love that freedom. I don't feel like that so far, but yeah, OMG moments. I see that pop up a lot in comments of people saying, yeah, I want that back because I miss being able to just trigger that, have a fun sequence, and yeah, bust up the barricades and do more.
Yeah, just create a little more chaos within and give
Yeah.
the user more freedom, I guess, is basically all I'm asking for. The fact that they took away double stack table. Now look, I'm not going to complain about the 2K guys because I understand what's going on here.
Yeah.
They're taking things away, and Brian actually explained this in the interview that we did do with him when everybody was in here. They're taking things away because eventually they're going to be introduced back, but in a much better fashion.
Sure.
So it's coming back. They just have to take control of this engine that they've been running on since 2006. You know what I mean? It's been around for quite a while, and they're finally digging in and just kind of tearing things out and putting them back in the way they want to put things back in. That's why we don't see things like create a story anymore, create a finisher. Those things are going to come back. He's already confirmed that. Like, they will come back to the franchise. It's just a matter of when.
And you
when
could see...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, like, and you can see, like, create a story designer. I see it and hear it every day that people are like, add this back in. And my opinion is, I can see they won't because they would integrate it into the universe mode action items list. In that, like, promos, people always say, I want promos back and I want story designer. I think what they're doing as a guess is they're using the action item list that's now in universe mode. That is your story designer, or that will become the story designer, because we've got all of these little threads of story arcs you can do. And I actually really like it as a new implementation. We need more depth, but where people say, I need promos, I'm like, you just need the action item list updated so that it lets you say, I want to do a promo on this guy. And how do you want to end the promo? Oh, I want to attack him. I want to shake hands. I want to whatever, hit him and run. Give us 5 different promo options. And there you go. Now, I know people with story designer want the text. I want to be able to make it all my own personally.
Yeah.
And they might get there, but I can see the action list is their solution to people wanting more freedom in universe mode and story mode elements.
I think you're right with the action list, but at the same time, I know that 2K is hearing about the story, the creative story, and creative finisher. Those are the two things that they, that they have been wanting the most. So, special referee. There's a lot of things that are going to be making the return to the franchise. I do like the idea of incorporating that creative story, though, in the minor universe, because if you incorporate that there and you do give them their text, then they can write out their own promos that happen and watch them play out in a universe mode. That is actually pretty clever. I like that.
Yeah, instead of just have it prop like when you're gonna go in, you're doing Undertaker and John Cena promo segment on your universe, and then it's like, what kind of promo do you want to do? So that's a sub menu, and then it's okay. Now it takes you to what's the dialogue. You could either do preempted, pre-populated dialogue trees and stuff that's already marked up, or they'll give you generic stuff to fill in, or be like, just hit custom and then let me fill it in. Something like that would be cool. And then obviously to share 100%. It, like you said, online, MyGM, Universe, those things, play online. The online and download and community creation story designer was amazing.
Incredible.
Probably ahead of its time as well, because in retrospect, you're like, this is incredible. We just downloaded everyone's crazy from really wonky storylines to just really grounded or stuff that was like they recreated moments of Ruthless Aggression or Attitude Era. That gives the game huge legs where you could say, we're good for a year. Because I'm just going to go and download everyone's story every month. Could you imagine online too for like for you and I? I'm like, that's great content.
Oh yeah, I was just getting
top 10 stories this week that you could download in 2K. My God, I'd be so happy.
You'd have videos every week, multiple
Every
videos.
day, multiple a day.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun, man. I really hope that mode does make its return back. But what are you kind of looking forward to the most when it comes to WWE 2K24? Is it a mode? Is it a feature? Is it physics? What would you like to see the most if you had to pick one thing?
Yeah.
Because you know that we're, out of all the requests, and I try to make this very clear too in the videos that I make for, what do you guys want to see in WWE 2K24? And I'll make a list, and that'll be my video. But I make it very clear that we got to be realistic.
Yeah.
2K is notorious for only putting just a couple new features in.
Yep.
But
one or two.
They'll add a lot of different physics throughout the game. But as far as features, modes, match types, things of that nature, War Games was really huge this year. We've been waiting for that for a long time. That mode probably should have been back in the game at 2K19. If we're being honest, but
and then 21, if they were like, we took us years to develop it, and you're like, okay, even then I would have been like 21 could have been in there, should have, but yeah, you're right. Like back in 19, yeah. I'm not a one match mode guy in terms of like, if you give me this, I will shut up and I'll be happy forever, because you always want a little bit of everything. Like I can do without showcase, I know that we talked about that, but like,
what about more freedom when it comes to creating your matches?
I think it's more freedom and the depth of that. It's almost leaning into universe mode. I think just overall freedom in terms of match options, and then universe mode freedom as well, because roster is going to be what the roster is with all encompassing DLC and such. I'll be satisfied. Community creations is great for that too. So I'm good with the roster. Match types, we have so much. Yes, there are gaps. I want special guest referee, gauntlet match. I want like a proper gauntlet, 3 to 5 person gauntlet match. I want a lumberjack match. I want a 3 stages of hell. Those are slobber knocker, just where it's just endless. People coming in, beat up the next guy. That's what I grew up with. That's what I love. On top of everything, and I would not expect any of that. I would expect one, because they can hang their hat from a marketing perspective. They can say special guest referee, for example, is the match type this year. We are centering the game around, so you can pull off your favorites just like they did with War Games. War Games was the match type. They could focus if you give us so much. Yeah.
Do you think that special referee would be that? It's a great mode, but would that match up to a War Games though? In a marketing standpoint, like we're selling this game based on special referee. I don't think that would be.
I don't know. I think you'd have to maybe not. Maybe you would have to balance it with what the whole package is. Of this is our showcase. This is new to universe. We've expanded GM mode, and that's why I say if you're like, what's like the one thing? That's where I'm looking at it. Like this year is a lot. I would be happy if it's a lot of culmination of little to moderate improvements of each thing, where I'm getting 2-3 new match types, and that's stretching it. I kind of reserve and say I'm going to get one new in that it'll be like special guest referee being the new one. Then I go over and say, what would they do in GM mode? Full calendar year, trade options, and more control. And they build it out a little bit more, where they've gone from like, now we're up to fatal 4 ways. Now they can add in, well, we've upgraded and we're doing online for my GM and, 6-man up to 6-man matches. That includes Elimination Chamber. We can do the Royal Rumble. Like you can have a full calendar pay-per-view year with my GM. Then I would go, ooh, okay. So now you got, though, now it feels like a real show that I can control.
Yeah,
and man,
absolutely.
So ding, and then universe, you double the action item list, you stabilize it, you let us do every single match type in there. Give me a draft in universe mode. And yeah, mostly it's stability in universe mode, I think, for players. But like you said at the beginning, I think universe mode is just, it's been around for so long, and you love it. It's like a bag of chips for me. Like I'll always snack on it. But something needs to change, and I do not know what it is, and I don't feel it is one thing. But I'm kind of like, how do you improve this mode to take it to a next level? Because it's very much the same going back 10 years ago. I'm like, yeah, not much has really changed fundamentally.
I feel like it needs to add a lot of unpredictability in it. So what do I mean by that? There already is a ton of cutscenes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we need way more.
Yeah.
For this mode to just stand out above the rest, because if you have that unpredictability in universe mode, you don't know what's going to happen. But the problem with that is now we have those action sequences to where we can choose what happens and we can choose the cutscene or whatever. When we had it the other way, where we just kind of watched and seen if it played out, chances are nothing's going to happen and nothing's going to build in this rivalry, and that sucks. So, but we definitely need more cutscenes. We need promos back, because if you're going to make a universe mode and people are going to make content or going to create a story or just whatever the case is, even if they have it online, if I'm playing with a buddy online, which, by the way, I would like to see happen. You don't have to put a 10-person online universe mode. We can just do it with one other person, and I think that would be a fantastic upgrade. Same with GM, 1 to 4 players for my GM mode. I think that would be pretty cool. But the universe definitely needs some love as far as like promos and unpredictability, because once you've played through a year and you're
you've done it,
done with it. Yeah.
I think you probably nailed it, because we have almost every option in there from the base game. There's some things where I'm like, and I think Brian said this on like your interview before. I think I asked it. I was like,
okay,
can I just not port my main menu factions roster builds and transfer it into universe, so I'm not rebuilding? When you start a brand new universe, you have to rebuild all your teams, all your factions, everyone's show association. But then your my play regular is different, even though I swear it says in the menus, like, do you want to import your roster over here? Or do you want to save as your maybe I'm just stupid and it doesn't mean that. And then Brian was just like, yeah, that's way more complicated than it sounds. And I'm like, gotcha. That makes sense. Okay, probably is. But outside of that, I think you nailed it, where it's, okay, I got a full calendar. We need that. I think we need... See, when I start thinking about it all, I keep leaning into things that my GM gives me. I want to draft. I want to handle contracts. I want to buy Roman Reigns for a year on my show. And then there's GM stuff happening. But that's GM mode. So I'm like, okay, so you don't do that. I think where you nailed it is more cutscenes and more unpredictability, more rivalries. Like, we're at 4 or 5 right now. You need to give us more / faction wars.
There's like 10 matches in a friggin' event, so I don't understand why they limit us on the rivalries when it comes to a Monday Night Raw,
which would create more stories. And then
if you draft in that thing too, maybe that will kind of shake things up. No pun intended.
Like doing factions too, to be able to do 3-on-3 rivalries, so that we can do Judgment Day versus Imperium or something. So it makes sense for WWE TV. I don't know. I like them to also introduce they have this in, well, they don't really have this in my faction, but with other sports games, it's, do you want to play now? Do you want to play the live season as it's happening right now? Do you want to play the NFL matchups that are today, the MLB matchups that are happening today in this season?
Yeah.
Give me that option where I go into universe and it's a pre-built Raw, NXT, SmackDown.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Universe, but it auto updates every week. It's a week behind, and it would auto update the WWE television product.
Oh, geez. Brian would be super mad that was even...
Yeah. It would never happen, because you don't have certain wrestlers, match types. It wouldn't work, but in theory, I would be like...
But how cool would that be, though?
Yeah, to be, or at least one match. Like, import a match to say, oh, we can't give you every Raw match. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
The Raw, But what if you could pull one match that was from Monday Night Raw, and you could import that into WWE Live, where it's essentially universe mode, like superstar mode. We follow one wrestler, right? Well, what if it's that, or like that, but it's a live component, and you could play the highlighted match of the week from Raw or SmackDown. It was a televised one, and they incorporate, I don't know, they put a clip of it from the promo segment from TV, or they updated something. That's just too wild. That would never happen. But like, You know what I mean? More of a live
one of the
more of a
most
live element.
intriguing ideas that I've ever heard for the universe mode, though. That is a fantastic idea. You asked at the beginning, what could we do to make this mode improved? I think that would change the game.
Some sort of live. I'm just thinking of like a live where the live sports element nails it. I love playing sports games casually.
Yeah.
I love playing the matchups I want to do, but I love following along with the season. Well, how can I incorporate that into wrestling? Well, I could follow along the Raw season, playing the highlighted matches, or maybe it's just the pay-per-views. And there's the highlighted Judgment Day match, and WWE puts it on, or if it's not in universe, they throw it in there in the main menu for the live thing, and you play through it and you get rewards. My faction cards.
Yeah. Let's not even get back into that.
No.
Oh, man, my faction. So much fun. Guys, I'm going to play a quick ad for my buddies over here and Everything Pro Wrestling. They are also mods in the chat as well. Go and check out their podcast on Wednesdays, man. They're a lot of fun. I'm going to play the ad, and we'll be right back.
Pro Wrestling Shoot listeners, this is Conrad Cushman from Everything Pro Wrestling, here to let you know that Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And every Monday, we are live on YouTube with our classic show, Clash of the Podcast, 6:05 Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to myself and my tag team partner, Sean Hubbard of Hubbard Wrestling Weekly, talk all the latest and greatest in pro wrestling. Also on our YouTube channel, live every Wednesday following AEW Dynamite, myself and Derek bring you the live post-show coverage. Make sure you guys are tuned in to check us out. And did I mention we are also on audio platforms like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Now, let's get back to listening to the guys of the Pro Wrestling Shoot.
Don't ever say that I don't do anything for you, buddy. That is a good friend of mine. We have a group chat with all the Pro Wrestling Shoot guys. There's a few people in the club over here. Conrad and me talk deep wrestling
Nice.
just about every single day. My partner James is actually in the chat now. He couldn't be here today because he is tied up on Thursdays, but he's definitely in the chat. Renegade L2K, there he is. Great options, should be online in case you have a buddy at your place and want to tag online. Fill as anonymous or guest one. So definitely a regular. How long have you been playing the games, Matt? Since
the
like
day I was
the
beginning the arcade.
Just fresh out the womb, huh?
Fresh out
Just
the womb,
fresh
man.
out the womb.
And I had
a controller.
I had a controller / joystick. No, I was probably playing like whatever it was, WrestleMania arcade a little bit there.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Then going back into the
WrestleFest.
Yep. Then going into WrestleMania on the SNES. I had an NES. That was my start, but I don't recall wrestling games on there for me. It would have been in the SNES, and then really obviously hitting its stride. For me, it was on my. I had like N64 and I had PlayStation 1, so I was playing Warzone and WWF Attitude on PlayStation 1, and then
Warzone.
Yeah, man.
Ugh,
yeah.
Just brings back those nasty memories.
It's all I had.
Remember how hard it was to hit a
so
Stone Cold Stunner?
It was so hard. You're going left, down, right, left, right, X square, and you'd hit a stunner maybe, and you were like, I almost hit it. Nope, just a swinging neck breaker.
And it would look so bad when you did it too.
Oh yeah, it was a complete turn. It was like Austin's original stunner where he waited, pivoted, turned, and then did it.
Just dropped.
And then obviously, with the N64 side, it was No Mercy in WrestleMania 2000, and just doing those. But it was huge amount of like Warzone, which was so hard, and it was just brutal to play. But then Attitude came out, and like WWF Attitude is a gem. It's the same engine, it's same mind-numbing controls, but you got crazy amount of creation.
Yeah,
you got
creation was so good.
Way more match types. You had so much more than that of Warzone.
It was first game that I got to see green ropes.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I wouldn't create it, just some wild stuff. Yeah, it's so much fun, man.
So yeah, it went from there. Then it just rolls into what we all got. The Smackdown games, Here Comes the Pain, then went through the Smackdown series, Smackdown versus Raw, and then off to 2K.
Did you ever mess with the Raw series of games on the original Xbox? Did you
Raw 1 I did.
Okay.
a little bit because I never had an Xbox until way later, but then I would like borrow it from a friend or whatever, and I rented Raw 1 before.
Okay.
And I remember doing that a couple of times and then getting my hands on it way later. It had some cool elements. Didn't it have replay windows in it too? And like you could do run-ins.
Yes, it was the first game to introduce the run-ins. Raw 2, same thing. Had some I can't remember the gameplay so much because it's been years, but Raw 2, I remember like seeing the graphics at the time and I was like, dude, this looks better than Here Comes the Pain at the time.
Yeah.
Because I think it was around the same time frame that those two games came out. But when I was playing Raw 2, it had some gems in there. I wouldn't match the gameplay up against like a Here Comes the Pain, but just some good details, man. Kind of like what Fight Forever has. Like Fight Forever has its moments where you're like, wow, that's really detailed and that's really cool. Sucks that I only have to do it in this match, but whatever, you know. Like,
what do you want to see from Fight Forever? Because the conversation always comes up generally when just match types. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like I feel like the answer is simple for me.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to change with everybody though. Stadium Stampede didn't do much for me. Mini games are not my favorite, but I don't mind, sipping some wine or something and playing that with a buddy on a private match. Like that would be pretty funny.
Yep.
And I've done it and it was actually pretty fun. But when it comes down to the game itself, I don't feel like the roster needs much more.
No.
I feel like if that's where we're going with the updated DLC and stuff, I'm good. I don't really need more to. I feel like we need the Acclaimed, like the rest of the House of Black and maybe a couple more people. But other than that, like the roster is fine as is.
It's not a big problem. I think I fear that they don't give us the match types and they keep giving DLC, and then you and I are running the same problem of, cool, you gave us the Acclaim, but I have no reason I want to play the game.
Yeah, like the tag team matches on the game suck.
Yeah,
I do not have fun with those.
Yeah,
I don't know. When they just recently patched it, but at first I was complaining to Conrad and James in the private chat. I was like, dude, I don't know how to get a finisher with this computer. This computer is so dumb that it will not let me hit a tag finisher. It's impossible. Now they've changed it to where only one of you need to have your special meter filled. So that's not so much of an issue now, but before, dude, I was raging on this. I was like, I'm done. I played the game for like a week and I'm good, man.
I know.
I was really bummed. Considering Brian actually worked on that game too. So I was really excited for that. While he was making it, I remember doing a podcast with him, during the making of it. He's like, dude, just come to California. I'll let you play the game. And I'm like, oh, sure. I'm on my way. Over here in Washington. Like, yeah, let me just hop on a plane real quick.
Get on your jet.
Fight Forever. Yeah. So, I mean, the offer was there. James, on the other hand, lives like an hour from him, and he could just drive, and he still didn't go play it. But Brian really defends the game, but Brian is also an incredibly nice human being. I don't think you'll ever see a negative Brian. You know what I mean? So when the game came out, he was really happy for everybody involved in the team, and Justin Leeper, who was no longer on the team as well, he also left that team after. I think they just brought him in for that.
Is it for the story of the career mode?
Yeah, the
Road
mode.
to Elite. Road to Elite. Yeah.
Which was terrible, by the way. No offense, Justin Leeper, but I could not get into that mode either. It was. I feel like the game just left a lot to be desired when it came down to AEW Fight Forever. The gameplay itself was exciting. I was really excited about the gameplay itself. If they had more to do in the game, then that would be great. You unlock everything so fast that there's just really nothing left to do.
I know when you play an hour, I know you're playing an hour, 2 hours, and you're like, so I unlocked all these characters, the extra ones or extras like Cody and stuff, and then a couple of things with cash. All right, I don't need every entrance motion because the creation suite is so limited. I don't need anything for arenas because it's very bland. There's nothing else, and I'm just sitting here like, hey man, I'll come back. I'm ready to come back when you can give me match types and a good solid reason to turn that thing on, because more wrestling games is great. core gameplay, not denying it's a lot of fun. I'm sure if you're playing with your buddies on the couch, it can be a lot of silly fun. But at the same time, if you don't have the depth or like create a pay-per-view or something like akin to a universe mode nowadays, I think you're missing out for the longevity. So my fear is that they bring in, here's our season 2 DLC roadmap, and we've got 5 packs lined up, and you go, great. Do you have any match types? They're like, not really. Like, I don't need to come back then, man. I'll just play 2K. Like, and people will still go back and play Fight Forever, and they will buy the season pass and they'll enjoy it. And I'm like, great, enjoy. But for me, I just need the depth. I need more depth to it to hook me when I could play many other things. And I feel bad too, because I'm like, I wanted the game to be more than it was.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at things like, how come No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000's menu options? If I want to do my match type options, I can do TKO on and off, DQ on and off, pin, submit. These are options. Yeah. I can't do that in Fight Forever. I'm like, I don't get it. You didn't put those base to give me the feeling, blood on and like I can't toggle certain things.
It's just a simple toggle too. That's what's so unfortunate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree, man. I also don't like, little things like thumbtacks being so restricted to one match.
Yeah.
That sucks, because that's, to me, is like the funnest feature in that game is those thumbtacks, which I'm really hoping that we get to see. And Brian did acknowledge that on the stream too, by the way. It's something that we could see in the future for WWE 2K. I'm hoping it's 24. That's all I can say.
I would love for weapons, like let's talk 2K. I would love for 2K to look at weapons in the game. 2K20, as harsh of a critic most of us are for that game, some of the things they got right with it anyways was the weapon customization, where you could put different skins on weapons. And they released different weapons with the DLC to go along with it, or the updates. I think, and Fight Forever does this, you can reskin every weapon to have like Cody's face on it if you want, and put a sticker on it, or just color everything and save it. I would love it if 2K did that, where they, number one, incorporated new weapons, more weapon to the weapon wheel, something. Yeah. And then with those existing weapons, just let us go through a color wheel or something, or textures like you do in Creation, and just go, yeah, I want to change every baseball bat to be blue or pink, and those are the ones I want to use from Under the Ring. Or I want yellow ladders, and I want to do that. Like those things are just, that makes it silly, and that gives it a little more fun for players too.
More videos from Macho T coming on
there you go.
On YouTube. I turned every weapon in the game pink, and this happened.
That's right. And this happened.
Everything.
Every title is pink, and this happened.
Yeah. Some of these video titles, man, it's great. It's great. I love YouTube. Everything Pro Wrestling says, a symbol in Pro Wrestling Shoot. Could you guys see AEW getting a second game?
For me, no. Not anytime soon. I think kudos to AEW for putting out a video game in the first 3/4 years of the company being out there. I think that's a huge accomplishment. It really is. And by the way, they did it during COVID. Mm-hmm. So I say kudos to them for getting a wrestling company to the scope that it has and putting out a full video game in our hands in 3 years plus COVID. However, the Fight Forever, I believe they have even said this on streams and interviews, that the goal is to make it the one game and we build upon it, is the thinking behind it. And I love that idea. I wish 2K would do that idea. Give me one game and give it to me for 3 years and just update the crap out of it. Give me new arenas, DLC, patches, modes, everything, so that the third year you give me 2K Live 2 or whatever, and it's that plus everything you were working on with the other team. What Fight Forever, if you release another Fight Forever in 2 years, you could, but what the core of it is, like, what's going to be different? The core game is still there.
Yes.
I don't know. I just think that you just patch the existing game. It's so stripped down right now. If you release a second game in 2 to 3 years, way more money. I have no idea if AEW got a profit off this thing. From everything I've read, it was a pit. It was a money pit. So I don't know if they got a return on this or not.
Well,
What do
if
you
you
think?
listen to Tony Khan will say, "Yeah, no, it's great. There's tons of people playing it." I don't know.
Yeah, Tony, everything's great in Tony
Yeah.
Land. Everything's
Yes,
great.
yes. I don't see him getting another game anytime soon. I agree 100% with everything you said. Phenomenal that it happened in such a short time, but because of all the problems that went into making this game, all I can do is hope for the best. Like, I'm not giving up on the game. I'm just not playing the game right now. I'm waiting for something else to happen to the game. I hope that this game turns out to be everything that we've wanted from it. As far as 2K goes, I wish that the game would not be a yearly release. Conrad in the chat also is a huge fan of moving this away from a yearly release. Unfortunately, that's not a 2K thing. That is a WWE thing. If you haven't noticed, WWE just made $9 billion off the sale to Endeavor, our merger to Endeavor. So they're about their money, man, and I don't see a situation where they're going to say, yeah, no, we can give the fans everything they want in one game and just do it in a 5-year span. Great. What are we going to do after that? Well, we've already given them the perfect game, so maybe just add to it. Not going to work for me, pal. So that's unfortunately the case.
My only hope there is, I agree with you. I don't think 2K WWE ever go that path. That's my dream. I think it's too much of a revenue generator to annualize a game, as much stress and pressure that must put on developers. Are like, hi, here's your 6 to 8 months turnaround time. Here you go. Yeah. And having to crunch to get to deadlines and trying to innovate and put in new things. And you're like, this is going to be taking us 4 months to develop. We can't get this one thing right. So it has to get shelved to next year. So like, while we're putting out this current year's game, we're still working on the next year. And I think that's where like what War Games, it's very much like that sounded and seemed so complex, years of development, because you're trying to put out a game every 8 months, or develop the game every 8 months. So I think what we could hope for, the best scenario would be it stays annualized. It keeps getting iterated a little bit better, not taking things away so much and making the fans feel like we're starting over constantly. But also put out a smaller game. WWE has said it themselves that they're exploring more ways to obviously monetize their product. They want more video games out there. They have the marketplace with the phone apps like Supercard. They've got 2K. They've rumored about an RPG game being out there too. I think you put out something small, not a Battlegrounds, but something like a Battlegrounds. I don't need Battlegrounds, but I need a Here Comes the Pain remake. I need a something more smaller, casual experience, arcade experience of WWE.
So what I've never understood why. Well, I do understand. Brian has said multiple times, don't ever expect a remake from Here Comes the Pain, just because of the licensing would be a nightmare. But when it comes down to the licensing, it's like, why can't we get a Here Comes the Pain with new models, new like an updated roster, take out the people that we can't pay no more, or whatever the case, or not under contract, and add in WWE's current roster, but give us a Here Comes the Pain gameplay. I don't know. I feel like there could be something along the lines of that, because if licensing is the deal and we can't pay for the music, we can't pay for the roster, we can't, give that money out, then give the money out to the people that we're already giving it to. Yeah.
Use the existing roster you have, or trim it down to just top talent, like the top stars you're going to see on every week of Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah.
So you might have a 50-person roster, 60 instead of 120. You cut the roster in half and give us the gameplay.
Community creations and that.
Yeah, just say, and we're going to port over our community creations. Here's your Here Comes the Pain gameplay.
Yep.
Have fun.
That would be awesome, man.
And then we're just like, and that's the game. And we'll have a smaller team, and they will patch and update and give you incremental stuff. Nothing blow you away. But yeah, here's like every match type you used to have, and it's very casual, and you might get some new wrestlers here and there, but that's what I would hope for down the road. I know I've heard that too, where it's like licensing's the nightmare. I'm like, well, could we get fans some sort of alternative? I don't know if Brian or anybody else would look at a Fight Forever and say, oh, there's something there we could tap into. I think they would be more likely to, how could we incorporate this into 2K versus our existing franchise versus making something else? Because for all standpoints, the appetite is not, it's there, but then it's not. Like the overall market, we're like, we love the feeling of the nostalgia gameplays. Like I look at something like Ultra Pro Wrestling that's slated to come out next year. That game's got me giddy for everything that they're talking about they want to implement. It seems very ambitious. It's exciting.
Yeah.
It seems very ambitious. If they can nail it, amazing. But I wonder if 2K ever looks and is like, the people are rah-rahing it online, but is a greater audience of millions of people gonna fork down, $60 to play a more arcade, smaller experience? Are we going to get the return on that? Versus, could we just put in an arcade mode or arcade options in 2K and just sell it that way too? And I think that is more likely, because then it's like, well, we really don't have to license more and do more. Let's just give them what we already have. Let's push out like big head mode and arcade mode turned on, which will unlock whatever, more weapons and more freedom and this and that. And maybe there's a way to do it that way.
Man, so there was one thing that was complained about the most, possibly from this year, and that's the whole Cody Rhodes situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't really get into it here, but I'm gonna have to have a discussion with you privately and just tell you some of the crazy things that went on about Cody Rhodes' music.
Okay.
And maybe bring some understanding to that. Next year, we won't have that problem, which is really strange.
Great. But, it's very confusing, I think, for the player base. Yes. And again, I don't know any of it. Everyone.
It's such a weird situation that went on, because when Cody came in, it was just a lot of confusion with that. Cody is so this is definitely, I will say this on here. This is not a 2K thing. This is a Cody Rhodes thing. This is a 100% Cody Rhodes deal that I don't understand. I think that he kind of came into WWE with his hands up, his guard up.
A lot of guard up of like, I want to, for any interviews we've seen publicly of Cody.
Yeah.
I will say in that vein that the impression he could give is that when he's talked about, well, I wanted to come back, but I wanted my theme. I wanted my Trons, my look, feel, presentation. I want it all intact. And he's quoted saying like, with Vince and team, that they're like, yeah, that's what we're buying. And Cody's like, okay, so to your point, I could definitely see that if he came in very reserved or protective.
Yes, protective is definitely the word.
I say protective of his brand.
Yes.
And so if he felt like WWE was going to, and total speculation, if he's sitting there, he'd be like, you're an idiot. You know nothing. To be like, yeah, true. But I could see how somebody in that position would be very protective going back there, everything he built, and not letting the company get their hands on everything, or being in a position where they can say, yeah, we changed your theme, or we remixed your theme song, or we changed your Trons a little bit, or we want Stardust, those things. So yeah, I get that. It's great to hear that if in 24 it may not be the case and we get something that's easier for fans, like set an alt attire with the music, people be happy.
So yeah, I don't see it happening for 24 just because he's so solidified in WWE now. But at the beginning, when he was coming in and getting scanned and everything like that, there was a lot to do with being protective over his brand, like you said. He was not protective for AEW Fight Forever. There was no limitations whatsoever on his music, and no limitations for AEW to use his theme, his likeness, anything like that. So just goes to show you that, when he came, I mean, this is a guy that smashed Triple H's throne in AEW, and then comes in, grabs the bag. He signs a huge contract with WWE.
Yep.
But he knows how that system works. So he's been in the games. He's been at WrestleMania. He's, you know what I mean? Like he's done things.
And what in this point in his career coming back, what his expectations of himself are, like him wanting to be a top guy or the top guy and presented as such, right? He hasn't, he was not brought back in any other way, and nor has he gone down. Like, they have positioned him there. So I think it's both ways, just as a fan perspective, that he's come back and this is what I want and how I want to be treated, and he's built up that credibility and that, that much of his brand to say, this is what I want to do with it. So yeah, it'd be great with 24 and 25 if we're not having those issues. I know it just rubs people. I think it just mostly just rubs people the wrong way, that they're like, this is not the case for anybody else on the roster. What the heck? Yeah. And it's one of the most popular wrestlers on the roster. This isn't someone from NXT that has a weird deal.
I'm a Cody dude, so nobody was more frustrated about this than me, because I love the different attires, and the fact that I couldn't put his theme on anything that I had changed or altered in any way was quite annoying. So I definitely was frustrated, and explaining those frustrations to Brian. He's like, check this out. Not my deal, bud. Sorry. But, it is what it is. It sucks, but yeah, adrenaline in my soul. Something, Cody Rhodes. Yes. God, I love Cody, man. I've supported him since he left WWE and left that Stardust gimmick behind. I've been a huge fan of his. I watched his father growing up. So, yeah. How long you been watching wrestling?
Since, probably since I was 8, 8 to 10, whenever I was allowed to, and I saw it come on TV. Very much grew up in my earliest memories. Like, then if I was like 6 or something, my earliest memories is like being at friends' houses, and I would see Hogan, Slaughter, Sheik. I'd see those guys on TV, Warrior. And I would see those guys popping on TV, whether it was like new or not. I have no idea. Like, because back then it's like, it's tapes. It might be Saturday Night's Main Event or something. It wasn't like it was everywhere. So you get into you just see certain things, and you'd get an understanding of who Hulk Hogan was. And then it just kind of translated from there. From there, it was new generation. I was too young and wouldn't have watched any of that. It was all Attitude Era. As soon as about 96, and then obviously 97, I was able to sit there and watch Nitro and watch Raw as a little kid.
Were you a WWE guy, or were you a WCW guy?
More WWE guy. However, I would sit there and be like, yeah, but Goldberg's really cool. Like, he's going in there and spearing fools left and right, and the NWO is really cool. Like, that's...
Here's my next question. Are you a Brett, you a Sean guy? Ooh. They say that you can always tell a wrestling fan's personality by who they pick out of this scenario.
I'd probably say Brett.
Okay.
In thinking it through, I never see, like, for both of them, I look at things like their in-ring work, like 10 out of 10 for both of them. I'm not one way or another on that. Sean being more of the showman and having the charisma, Brett not. But Brett in the ring, I was more captivated by the wrestling. However, the promos for both of them never stuck out as like
never anything to call home.
No, about. neither of them. Like Sean being the showman in the ring, yes, where he's performing and was next level. So was Brett, but from like a technical perspective. But for like promos, they were never
between like DX and the Hart Foundation.
Yeah,
like that was always fun. But
yeah, when they were grouped up. Sure, but then they're solo guys cutting promos, nothing overly memorable. There's none of that like Austin promos where I can watch them over and over again and find something in them. And then from there, all Attitude Era, and like it was never turning back. I don't think I've ever truly missed a Monday Night Raw. It's just ingrained in me of like watching. Some people go through periods where they're like, I stopped watching for 3 years or 5 years, and I skipped the late 2008 and stuff, and like, good for you. But like I've stuck it out, and I've just not because I'm like I have to honestly just habitual. It's just that thing. It's just to watch. It's story. It's backstage. It's the politics. It's now as you're grown up, I'm like it's the business aspects of it that I'm just fascinated by. And then that's it. Like it just kept going, and I'm just fascinated by the industry as a fan, and grew up with like Austin and Taker and Triple H, like my top guys are probably Triple H and Austin, of
Okay.
just watching them through Attitude Era, the 2000s, really hung on Triple H like forever. I was never not a Triple H guy, even Reign of Terror. I was like,
I love Triple H too, man. I've
Yeah.
heard all the bad things said about him, but
yeah,
Triple H was my dude.
So, yeah,
Shawn
and then,
Michaels was my guy, man. Growing up, really loved Shawn Michaels. And then during the Attitude Era, Sting was my guy.
oh yeah,
100%. I was a.
What about you though? Were you watching both, or were you more WCW, or?
It depended on the time. So during '96, I was definitely more aiming towards WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And then once '97 picked up to where the NWO was a thing, and that whole build with Sting and Starcade that they screwed up the finish to one of the greatest builds of all time, that was my period that I was just WC. I mean, I was a channel flipper, so I'd still, watch both of them, but for the most part, I was more excited for WCW. As like right now, like it's back and forth between AEW and WWE. Like, oh, what shows am I would tend to lean more towards the AEW side just because it's fresh and there's something different about it that's more barbaric, I guess. And
no, I get that
I grew up watching. So
there's some nights I honestly get that, because there's sometimes I'm watching AEW, like same as you, like I will always watch WWE, but like not even live, like it's just on demand. It's always there to watch it in the morning or the night of. With AEW, I've gone in like spurts of it recently because I've had a harder time with some of the storytelling and how stories are going, and I'm like, they just feel like some of them are just start and stop certain guys. But then there's other stuff, and I agree with you. There's something some days of like I watch AEW and I'm like, yeah, I just want to see these two guys beat the tar out of each other, and I enjoy how hard hitting it is. And I'm like, that looked nasty. That guy got smoked in that spot. And then they do cool things where they build guys up. Like I see 2 years ago now, like Wardlow getting built up. And I'm loving the storyline of him and Pinnacle and MJF and that rise, and then everything fell apart. And then like now I'm like, Ricky Starks is getting built back up and is amazing. Yeah. There's Tony Storm. Her character work is incredible. There's these like highlights of Christian just hates everyone's dad. Like there are elements of AEW where I'm like, these characters, these wrestlers, and these stories are so much fun that I'm like, I wish the 2 hours was like that. And there's so much stuff where I'm like, okay, you gave 6 minutes to a women's match. I don't even know what's going on here. Or there's like, yeah, I appreciate Ring of Honor. I've seen the Ring of Honor tapings too. Great matches. But for like, I think of like the casual viewer who's walking into AEW, it can be kind of confusing. Who is these Ring of Honor guys? He's got these title belts, but this is this guy for WWE.
Just one style of audience, which I think holds them back. Their attendance is crazy lately. It's going up, it's going down.
Yeah.
As like, I live in a town called Kennewick in Washington. We are not that big of a wrestling city, but apparently WWE has hit the sweet spot because this event is almost sold out. I think they have like 100 tickets left. Wow. And it's sold more tickets than the last 5 Dynamites in our tiny arena. So it's crazy to think about that Kennewick, Washington is a place that is selling this high of tickets. WWE is killing the game right now when it comes to a business standpoint.
Yeah. It's kind of shocking too, that like WWE has, especially with Triple H being in charge right now, or has been seemingly for the last years now.
Has he?
Has he? Well, sorry, not everything's been perfect by any means. There's a lot of start and stop. It's all Vince. That's awesome.
Just saying.
Yeah, I'll take that back. I think that there's been improvements, but where I can see things are headed, there's a little bit more direction, it feels, in terms of like we have factions and some stuff is moving too slow. Some stuff is dropped, but bigger pieces, you're seeing more stars blossom of your LA Knights. Now we're seeing Jey Uso after 3 years now getting a singles run.
Co-main event Jey Uso.
and co-main event Jay. So I can see that. I'm like, wow, in a couple of years, 2-3 years, the star power could be really strong compared to years past, where it's like, sorry, there's just Roman and Brock, and that's it. John Cena sometimes, and you're like, oh, come on. Now I'm like, well, it's starting to really build up where you're looking at Gunther and Chad Gable and Jay, Seth, Roman, Cody. It keeps going and going. Like, the depth is there. I just wish they would do more. But with arenas, to your point with AEW and WWE, we had in Toronto, I went to Collision, the second Collision show. It was in Toronto, and I went. So that was the first Collision of AEW in our area. We had Dynamite and Rampage here once before, and it wasn't at the big arena in Toronto. There's like a smaller venue, and they've done Dynamite and Rampage.
Is that where you're at? Is Toronto?
Yeah, I'm just outside of Toronto.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But they had a Dynamite Rampage last year, I think, for the first time in Canada, or maybe twice before that. Smaller venue. We have our big arena, our large arena where basketball games are and everything, concerts, etc. That's the big arena that probably holds 10,000 seats to 16,000. Like, it's a proper venue. Collision that I went to was the entire upper bowl was tarped, so no one was in the upper bowl, versus Raw and live events. Like Raw, I've been to a bunch of times there at the same arena. It's packed. The whole bowl is packed. The 500 levels are packed. Collision for the second show with CM Punk on the show, it was whole bowl was blacked out, and I looked around the whole floor and lower levels. There were just pockets of seats, just dead zones, and you could see where it's like hard cam, the opposite sides, and you're looking at the floor going, I can count heads. There's probably 200 people around the floor total, like around the entire arena floor, and then you get into the little bowl seats, and it was not packed. And I was really surprised. I was like, this is the brand new TV show, the second week, first time in Toronto, the first show of the like Canada stint they did, right? Because they did like Toronto, Hamilton, Regina. They did like too many shows. So, by the way, they did Toronto and Hamilton. Just for clarity, those things are 45 minutes away from each other.
Wow.
It made no sense. You go from Hamilton to Toronto. It doesn't make any sense. People go from Buffalo to Toronto to watch a show, which is 2.5 hours.
Conrad went to Forbidden Door in Toronto.
Yeah, there you go.
And he lives in Buffalo. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. I don't know why they are booking so many shows close like that. And their ticket prices are rising too. So I'm heading to Wrestle Dream.
Oh,
in
good
Seattle.
for you.
So I'll check out Wrestle Dream, and I'm going to the Collision the night before as well. But when we went to go look at tickets for Wrestle Dream, we're like, all right, cool. We'll probably just snag some floor seats or something. It's like $500 all the way in the back on the floor.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like,
holy
dude,
crap.
like, this is WWE prices. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like, for a pay-per-view for WWE, they only charge $500 for the first 3 rows. Now, when I say pay-per-view, I'm not talking WrestleMania or Royal Rumble,
but like a
tickets go out,
or a Backlash, whatever, Fastlane,
like your
B level,
your B level pay-per-views, So it's a wild time in wrestling, man. And once again, everybody, thanks for all the comments too in the chat. Do me a favor, like the video as well. I don't know what that's gonna do for me other than just stroke my ego a little bit, but I'd appreciate it if you like it.
Do it. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Hit
yes,
the like
and
button,
subscribe too. I would appreciate that. Check out some of our other content too, man. While you're at it, tell me if you like
good
it.
stuff, man. No, you've done great work here on the channel. I love it.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. So I used to do a lot of editing back in the day, and I basically retraining myself on how to do things. So I'm learning new things every day. Like, oh, this is interesting. That's interesting. I think I want to start setting up OBS though, because I feel like it would be a lot easier for me to do it that way instead of just full on editing.
It can be. Depends.
Is it hard?
Well, like what aspect of OBS are you thinking of? Like for doing the live show or for
both live show? I hate StreamYard. Like StreamYard, don't cut me off, but I hate StreamYard so much. I just want to get away from this thing. There's not a week that goes by that I'm not bitching and moaning about this platform. So
once you have like OBS set up the way you tinker and tinker and tinker, and once you kind of have a flow, a setup, like your aesthetics for the live show is fantastic. You just take this, just dump it into OBS, get your audios, play with it, do a bunch of test runs in like a private YouTube video, like a private stream, just so you guys can test it all out. Once you get your setup, you'll be fine. And it is literally just like hit record, let's go. I use Streamlabs, which is the extension of the other version of OBS.
Yeah.
I like it because it's just, I've used both. They're both virtually the same. Streamlabs does a few things differently, which is good and bad. I get frustrated because my streams fry sometimes, like they lock up and glitch. But overall, once you've got your flow with it, you set it, forget it. And then you don't have to do any record. Same with like capturing footage. I capture everything through OBS.
Okay,
cool. For any wrestling content, because then I'm like, you figure it out. Spend a couple hours just on YouTube looking at OBS tutorials, and you'll start flying through it. And you're like, okay, I can do this.
Okay, yeah. So I did play with OBS a while ago. I wasn't on Streamlabs though, so I was just kind of messing around in OBS Studios.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna definitely do something because StreamYard sucks. Thank you, Mike Hawk, for subbing. I appreciate that, man. I'm seeing the comments in here too. I'm just trying to keep the flow of the conversation going. This is podcast format too, so we are seen on, heard on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts, Spotify. So if you guys like podcasts, go and check out some of our previous stuff, man. You can hear me rant about AEW, WWE. I go nuts over there. James, same thing. We've had Conrad on. We've had Brian on. You can actually go and listen to old episodes with Brian on there where we're just talking wrestling.
Nice.
Good stuff. So once again,
so what do you want to...
Go ahead.
I was going to say to you, what do you want to see? Well, you're a Cody guy.
Yes.
Do you think, what is kind of your earliest of early WrestleMania predictions for your man, Cody Rhodes?
This coming WrestleMania?
Yeah, for 40.
If he doesn't win the title, I am never watching WWE again.
Oh my. Oh wow.
I'm done.
Oh no.
I raged, man. Like so I got my kids into Cody Rhodes so much. Grandkids, by the way, actually. At my age, I have grandchildren. Married in to grandchildren. So yeah, my grandkids love Cody Rhodes so much that they were crying when he took the pinfall against Roman Reigns. Because I all night I was like, don't worry, he's winning. We've been waiting for this. It's happening. Takes the loss. It was devastating. So we've all been waiting for this WrestleMania. If it doesn't happen, I'm out. I'm out. So huge Cody Rhodes fan, man. I love Cody Rhodes. I love Roman Reigns too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that I hate the guy. I just think that it's time for somebody else. And Cody Rhodes just has that face too, that could be that face of that company, right? Like, he can sell tickets. He is a huge star. So
and I think they need that with Roman's schedule if it is going to be kind of the same deal in the next couple of years. I think you need Cody, Cody doesn't wrestle every week by any means, but he's there. And so you need that to draw tickets, to sell the arenas. Like, he's doing, like, if he's not wrestling on a show, like we've seen, he's got a Grayson Waller segment. Like, he's there and that's selling tickets for him to come out. So I think, I totally see that Cody is and can be that face to lead it, to lead the brand. They want that brand guy, right? He's going to run the flag of WWE. So I think he is the guy. I think it's just a matter of when they pull the trigger on this whole thing. My other question was, like, with WrestleMania 40, I mean, you'll riot if Cody doesn't win. What if by the outside chance it's not even Cody? And what if Rock comes in for 40? And I only say that because the writer's strike, it's WrestleMania 40. It could be the most opportune time for The Rock to come back if he was able to. Your thoughts?
So I have a very controversial take when it comes to
you, sir.
When it comes to The Rock, Mr. Johnson. I would much rather have The Rock keep his ass in Hollywood and not come back to WWE, because We had the opportunity, and he chose not to because of his movies. So now, when the time is right, don't come in here taking the spotlight.
Don't come in my house
from my boy Cody Rhodes. Keep your ass in Hollywood. Make another movie with Kevin Hart because that's what you're good at. You're gonna come here and get injured anyway. So I hope that doesn't happen. That's my thought on the Rock.
I think Cody is the better story. I think
Yes.
that the box office draw is Rock Roman, which I would worry that WWE, yes, they would go and be like, that's the money, Cody, you wait. But I think the story is Cody. If he gets, I guess the other question as I'm interviewing you now, sir, what do you think that Cody is getting traded? Because we got Jay drafted, traded, whatever. Cody did something to pull politics stroke within WWE to get Jay over to Raw. And he's basically said, like, I hope I don't regret this. The talk is always of like the trade. Is Cody getting traded to SmackDown to then get the Roman story going by Survivor Series?
I hope so, because I don't want it to be the obvious and getting there by the Royal Rumble, right? Like, I don't feel like we need him to win the Royal Rumble again. We've been there, told that story, and fans, all they did was say, oh, he needs more adversity. He needs more adversity to get to Roman. And, you know, I feel like he's shown you adversity. I mean, he did 3 matches with Brock Lesnar. So, brutal matches, too. I thought they were really good. Brock, I'm glad, is another one that we're kind of over that stepping stone.
Same.
But I feel like Jey Uso, because he blew up so fast, another person, too, is LA Knight that you have to take into consideration with how fast his So we need LA Knight and Jey Uso, I feel like, on Raw. I feel like we need to switch that over. If you're gonna tell this Cody story, we can't just throw these two guys who have this massive momentum behind them right now to the side. So Seth Rollins isn't really mixing it up with anybody else either. So.
No, that's a very good point about LA Knight, as an LA Knight fan myself. But I didn't really think that much about it, and you're totally right. With Cody potentially if Cody goes to SmackDown, I don't think you want anyone else in his way in terms of taking crowd reactions or a potential of the crowd siding, because if Cody goes over to SmackDown in a month and LA Knight is there, I think you run the real risk of the fans turning on Cody to go for LA Knight because he's the hot ticket right now. Like, he is over. Cody is over. I'm not discrediting it. I'm just saying that you can run that risk of fans are chanting it at Cody. They're starting to do these things to Cody, or maybe to LA Knight, and you don't want that. And I think you're totally right where you're like, move him to the 3-hour show. If Seth takes legit time off, and comes back at the Rumble or just at WrestleMania, give us Jay and LA Knight, Gunther, those guys, Chad Gable, mixing it up, and LA Knight and Jay anchoring Raw as your top faces. And then Cody and Roman are SmackDown with the Bloodline. And like you said, I thought the same thing. Yeah, I don't need Cody winning the Rumble. I don't need him to be number 1 and go through it all, because I find that boring, where I'm like, okay, so I'm just waiting for Cody to win for an hour. We had that scare
too with Cody when Sami Zayn was picking up that momentum. So I think you're right. Yeah. We need to get those guys onto Raw and not have anybody in Cody's way for this story with Roman, because I think it would just fit that way anyway.
Yeah.
There's no shame in taking the second choice title.
No. But you could do if the Bloodline is still a thing by Mania in terms of Jimmy and Solo and Roman still mixing it up, and say they're all, maybe it's crumbling again for the final time. But I also envision they get to Elimination Chamber and Cody is facing the Bloodline within the chamber. Maybe it's all 3 of them. Maybe it is just Jimmy and Solo, but essentially Cody has to get through the Bloodline to finally get to the final boss.
Yeah, if that's not adversity, I don't know what is. So
yeah, it's how many ways can you tell it? And then you're like, get this guy to the belt, do the Mania match, and then let Cody run with it for like 6 months. I don't need another 3-year title reign. I think people are tired. I think they would like to see it mixed up, where I'm like, give Cody the proper run. But build. Then you gotta build. Then you gotta build heels. You need Gunther. You need other guys. You need Finn. You need Damian Priest. You need people. Where I get concerned with Cody, Roman goes bye-bye for several months. Cody's your guy. Did you run the risk of not building other heels because we were so focused on getting the Cody Roman story done that now it's like, cool. And now who's Cody fighting?
I think that's the curse of WWE too, is they wait too long to pull that trigger. So I'm with it, man. It's and now the whole family is home. So I think that we're going to end it on that note.
Makes sense.
Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. This was a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do it again sometime soon. Brian Williams is going to come back on the show to talk some WWE 2K24. I'm sending you the invite. You are more than welcome to come on the show.
Yay!
With us, and 2K will more than likely be in the chat as well. So
no, they don't. I'm guessing. I have no idea. I appreciate the offer. I'm totally guessing they don't like me very much. Maybe they don't even know who I am.
I don't think that's the case.
There's that dummy talking about trash about us again. Oh no!
Oh man, he's gonna hit us with the Cody Rhodes music in the My Faction.
Why you were talking about the My Faction again? No, that's wonderful. I really appreciate it, and this was a ton of fun. Yeah, absolutely, love to do it again.
All right, guys, thank you so much in the chat too. I really appreciate all the love that you guys have shown. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jesse Carter. He is Matt Assemble. We'll see you next time right here on the Pro Wrestling Shoot. Pro Wrestling!